Red Cross and Red Crescent societies has confirmed the killing of 5 Sudanese Red Crescent volunteers in the city of Bara in North Kordofan. The incident has shocked the humanitarian community and highlighted the growing dangers faced by aid workers on the front lines of the conflict. Joining us now at 7:15 Central African Time is Pierre Kremer, Deputy Regional Director for Africa at the IFRC. Pierre, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
Morning. Thank you for the invitation.
It's our pleasure. What more can you tell us about what happened in Bara and the circumstances surrounding the deaths of these 5 volunteers?
The circumstances are still a little bit unclear, even if some videos have been circulated. But what is clear is that we have 5 volunteers who have been killed. Some of them has been mistreated, humiliated. That's the facts we are quite clear about, and we call upon all parties to have an absolute respect for our emblems, because these volunteers were showing their best, they were showing their ID, and they were claiming their belonging to the Sudanese Red Crescent, and we are totally shocked and horrified by what has happened there.
How has the Sudanese Red Crescent and IFRC family been coping with this tragedy? What's been the reaction on the ground and within your teams?
Well, the Sudanese Red Crescent itself is, of course, extremely horrified by what has happened, because all these volunteers have families. They have been on the grounds for 2.5 years now, since the crisis and the conflict started. In addition to that, most of the population in Sudan has been affected in a way or another by the conflict. And despite being affected in their families, they have been on the ground supporting or delivering services to the communities in extreme conditions most of the time, and walking across the line of conflict. So for us, that's the worst thing that can happen, having volunteers being killed, not only because the emblem is not respected, which is a condition for operating, but also because without these volunteers all across the 18 provinces of Sudan, no international organization can operate. Without this, the Sudanese Red Crescent and maybe other local actors as well, of course, nobody can work, no humanitarian organization can work in Sudan today.
Sudan has been one of the most dangerous places for humanitarian work in recent months, and you cite some of those challenges when it comes to aid workers and volunteers. So how can those staff and volunteers who are facing these challenges better be equipped to deliver aid, because it is much needed there?
Absolutely. Well, we have lost 21 volunteers or staff of Sudanese Red Crescent since the beginning of the conflict. And again, the only way to work is precisely to have a very localized presence, which is the case of Sudanese Red Crescents. They have local branches in all the 8, as I mentioned. So they are living within the communities, and that's the condition for them basically to deliver services, because they know the population, they know the community, they know the context, and they are in capacity to negotiate and to access the people in needs. And that's how we maintain this lifeline, somehow, humanitarian lifeline, over the past 2.5 years.
So what does this all mean then for volunteering work in the Sudan? The uptake of volunteers, has it declined, as we've seen in recent times, because of these incidents? And if it has declined, how do you motivate for more volunteers to come forward?
I would say they are self-motivated, because they are living within the communities. What they need is, of course, resources, support, especially from the international partners. That's the case for the Sudanese Red Crescent, supported by the IFRC or the Red Cross Red Crescent movement partners. And that's and in addition to that, they have been trying, of course, to a series of humanitarian services. So it's not only for distributing food or health services, it's also to enable people to bounce back somehow from the situation. And today, our challenge is not only to maintain people and the affected communities afloat, but also to being able at some point to engage on a resilience process, on reconstructing their life. There we have a population, again, that is one of the worst humanitarian, facing the worst humanitarian, one of the worst humanitarian crises. And they are the one as well who have faced a huge trauma after 2 years and a half.
What message would you give to the warring parties in Sudan as well as the international community at this moment?
Absolute respect of our emblem, the Red Cross, Red Crescent, the respect of our fundamental principles, which includes, of course, humanity, but also neutrality and impartiality. And we ask for these humanitarian actors, which are sometimes the only contact with the outside world, to be supported, resourced, and again, to put Sudan on the top of the map, because it has been one of the most neglected and one of the worst humanitarian crises, again, for more than 2 years now.
Yeah. Pierre, we're going to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for updating us on this very dire situation.
Thank you very much.
Pierre Kremer is the Deputy Regional Director for Africa at the IFRC, speaking to us about the killing of 5 Sudanese Red Crescent volunteers in North Kordofan State.